an award-winning documentary maker, columnist for national newspapers, radio talk show host, a best-selling author. She's a woman on a mission to tell the truths not being told. From the systematic slaughter of white farmers in South Africa, if you haven't heard about what's going on in South Africa, this lady went out and is telling the story that the media will not tell. The plight of Christians in the Middle East, her aim is to tell the stories not being told. We recently had Katie on our radio show to talk about her visit to Los Angeles' Skid Row, another story the media won't touch. What she says is the worst than the migrant camps in Europe and the Middle East. We had such a positive response to that interview that we jumped on the chance to bring her to this event while she was in town. Please join me in welcoming the woman that sets Britain on fire, Katie Hopkins.
Hello, Trouble. How are you all doing? You're still with us? Yes, you are. Are you right there, Don?
Sorry.
What are you doing around my groin? Me too. Me too. Where's Hillary? I need me too. Someone else in the White House spent a fair bit of time on their knees around her husband, I think. My name is Katie Hopkins. And it's my very great pleasure to be here at the Battleground Talkers Tour. It's a pretty appropriate title, right, for right now. At times, it feels like we are all in a battle for what is right. Like we're at war for those against those who want to take our country to hell in a handcart with no brakes. Fighting for the countries we love. Fighting for the future of our children, whom we love even more. And from where I come from, it feels a bit like living on the front line, if I'm honest with you. We're fighting a war we brought on ourselves, with open borders, unchecked immigration, and a knee-high Muslim mayor of London, who's about as useful as a chocolate teapot. There is an alternative version to that, featuring a cock-flavoured lollipop, but it's too rude for this audience. Oops. I apologise to stage management. Then there's the jihadis. Thank you, sir. 452 of them we welcomed back to the UK. We virtually bribed them back, actually, after going to work for ISIS to kill the infidel in Syria and the Middle East. We said, no, come back. We will give you free homes, free education for your multiple children from your multiple wives. We will give you free healthcare. You know, personally, I think returning jihadis are a bit of a misnomer, don't you? You know, they were supposed to go to Syria, give it the old Allahu Akbar and blow themselves up. And get their 72 virgins in the process. That's more than you'll find in New York on a good day. So, they failed. And I wondered to myself, if you're a returning jihadi, how do you even live with yourself? If you're a failure, how can you live with that? But then I realized they have to live with themselves because they were crap at blowing themselves up. But I digress. Our returning jihadis are the perfect example of why Democrats and centrists cannot be trusted to run a country. Anyone who puts the human rights of terrorists before the right to life of our children has no place in power. And in my country, we have made ourselves into a laughingstock. If you don't put on your best sympathetic and welcoming face around Muslim migrants and jihadis in the UK, you are branded Islamophobic. And my own Islamophobia was brought about when two jihadis in the UK worked on a plot to behead me. A young woman, age 21, she sounds like a regular Brit, She wanted my head as a wedding gift from her jihadi boyfriend. He was called Mohammed from Birmingham, I believe. She brought a dummy body and a hunting knife for him to practice with, and they planned their attack on me. I fantasize about Katie Hopkins' head, wrote. She's the biggest bitch of them all. Yeah, you better believe it, sister. But their plan was foiled. The record of their conversations was used in evidence against them, and they were sent to prison, and they have now been locked up. And I live to fight another day with you all. Woo. Thank you. The Democrats usually boo at that point. I am a white Christian conservative. I am a wife and a mother, and I am proud to be all of those things. Where I come from, I'm right up there on the endangered species list with the black rhino. And he has an advantage because he's black. My children, they're 13, 12, and 9. And just like any other normal mums and dads, they're the reason for my fight. We're all fighting for the future of our children and our grandchildren and the country we love. And my own country is in disarray. You will have seen the murder rate in the UK is now greater than that of New York. One day this week, 6 young people were stabbed in just 90 minutes in London. In that same 24-hour period, a total of 9 young people under the age of 20 lay dead or dying from knife attacks. And you know what our chocolate teapot Muslim mayors just suggested? A ban on kitchen knives. Oh, genius. We're not going to have sliced bread anymore in the UK. We're not allowed to cut it. We just have to gnaw away at it with our teeth. But these are not random killings. London has a black gang problem. No one wants to talk about it because no one wants to be called racist. Just as no one wants to talk about the mass abuse of our white daughters by majority Pakistani Muslim men in case they're called Islamophobic. But I am not afraid to talk about any of these things because it doesn't matter what labels you put on me because I know who I am. Young black kids are drawn to these gangs. You know, I get it. A gang leader may be the first father figure any of these young guys have known. At 6 and 7, they're running the drug deliveries. At 9, they're learning the trade. At 12, they're on motorbikes in London, stealing phones and handbags. And by 13, it's the only life they know. If they make it to 16, then they're lucky. They carry knives, use mopeds to commit the thefts of phones. And higher up the pecking order, they commit high-value robberies by smashing in the windows of luxury jewellery and watch retailers on Bond Street, the smart bit of London, thieving millions of pounds. Yesterday, a gang on motorbikes armed with machetes took out the window of Watches of Switzerland and made away with their loot and escaped untroubled. The rival gangs control different parts of London City. They taunt each other online. They stab each other as part of initiation or revenge and gloat about their killings on Instagram. And the police are powerless to act. The left have gutted the power of the law. It was said on Friday the Metropolitan Police have lost control of London. They even had to call in another police force, the City of London, because they've run out of officers to investigate the murders. The police can't stop and search for knives because it's racist. You can't round up the gang leaders bragging about their killings on YouTube because it infringes their human rights. And the kids know it. they commit a burglary or theft on motorbikes, and when the police give chase, if they're around, they throw their crash helmets into the curb because they know the police are not allowed to chase them if they're not wearing their safety helmet. That is the UK. In the UK, we put the health and safety of criminals before law and order for the victims. And our gutless politicians lack the moral courage to make unpopular decisions. And that's the thing these days. Too much time wanting to be liked, pandering to criminals, too little making the right decisions and accepting sometimes this will make you unpopular, or being prepared to be challenged. Whilst the Met Police may have lost control of London, one thing our knee-high Muslim mayor really has cracked down on is hate online. Hurty words. The Metropolitan Police has 900 full-time officers, some of senior ranks, policing Twitter. Mostly my Twitter. Sat on their backsides in their warm offices, reading social media. Never mind the fact that Kwabene, Syed, Hassan, Promise, Ratimi, or Lewis just dropped dead from stab wounds just round the corner, or that little Layla, a 16-year-old, was shot, as she was the other day. As long as a few oversensitive idiot snowflakes desperate to be offended feel vindicated by a police investigation, then we're A-OK. I'm delighted to announce that I was interviewed by the very same Metropolitan Police, Major Forces, Crime and Homicide Command for some words I wrote in a national newspaper ahead of the migrant invasion. I said, "Stop the boats." How very racist of me. The head of the UN Human Rights Commission read my article, thank you, sir, and he said I was responsible for the uprising of hate in the UK. Not the 10 million migrants who invaded Europe, not the majority Pakistani Muslim men raping our white daughters, not the jihadis blowing up our children at concerts that they've gone to watch, but me. I was interviewed in a police station by two men in a taped interview under caution for 500 words in a newspaper. And boy, did I enjoy the speech I gave that day. My barrister said it was the first time he'd seen two male police officers look more frightened than the person that had gone into the interview. Seriously. You know, I recount these horrors not to put my country down. I love my country. I joined the military to fight for my country, went through Sandhurst, your West Point, but better, sponsored by the Intelligence Corps. We started as a platoon of 30 girls versus 180 boys, and 9 girls made it through, and I was one of them. And now I fight for my country in a different way, in the media. And I am joined by millions of good people in the UK who are also ready to fight back. And they live in a great little place called the rest of the UK, outside of Londonistan, like the rest of America, outside of the Democrats' Californication of this country. You know, I receive letters from elderly men and women, like my mum and dad, your mum and dad, 70, 80-year-olds. And they tell me they're glad their time here is nearly up. They tell me they're glad their lives will soon be over and they don't have to watch their country fall. So I come to America on their behalf to tell their truths, and with one clear message. Do not let yourselves fall as we have fallen. Do not let yourselves become the UK. Defend the freedoms you have with everything you are and everything you've got. USA. You know, there is still hope. I feel it, and I can feel it all around us. I feel it in the 20 million Brits who voted for Brexit. I feel it when I fly here and I see your flag flying proud. We're not allowed to fly ours because it's a nationalist symbol. I feel it when I speak to a lovely lady at the airport who tells me she hasn't got a TV in her home because she will not allow her children to be brainwashed by the mainstream media, but that I should keep going and I should keep speaking out because it matters. I feel it. And I feel it in Italy, where the socialists were just removed and the anti-immigration parties just won a massive victory. And I feel it in Hungary, where Viktor Orban is fighting right now to preserve the Christian culture that we need so dearly. And the first indications, Justin, is that he's going to cruise to a victory of which we can all be proud. And I feel it in Germany, where the Alternative for Deutschland is now second. They are the opposition party, and Merkel has been fatally wounded in the polls. We are fighting back. And we look to America. We look to you for hope too, because you have Trump. Yes, you do. And if you let him fall, if you let him fail, you will have me to deal with, and I will come after all of you. No, it's a little harsh. The recent exploits of the globalists, from CNN to the crying kids from Florida, has been a direct call to action for the United States in the midterms. The Democrats will take away your right to bear arms. And having watched them, the kids from Florida, the KFF as I call them, and their tears and their march, you know you are up against a carefully orchestrated emotional campaign backed by Soros all the way. And in this war for the midterms, you, good people, are armed with facts, firearms, and the Constitution. The Democrats are armed with tissues, issues, and tears. And I know which side I'm on. And I vote with my wallet too. I recently became a card-carrying member of the NRA, and I am proud. I'm proud to support the work that they do, that you do. Thank you, sir, for your support today. And I say to those children who spend their lives with their face planted on their phones, obsessing over their tiny lives, crying tears for the CNN cameras, I say to you, go stand at Mount Rushmore. Look up for once. Look into the faces of those great men who came before you. Read the Constitution, a document that gave you everything I no longer have. It protects your right to speak. I was interviewed under caution for mine, and I have 900 full-time police officers watching my Twitter feed. It protects your right to bear arms, and I live in a country plagued by crime. Jihadis are out to behead me, and I'm supposed to defend my family with an electric toothbrush. Because we have no right to defend ourselves with weapons or words. We are reduced to trying to survive an attack when it comes. Our government tells us what to do in a terror attack. Run, hide, tell. What would my grandfather say, who fought in the war? What to do in an acid attack? Report, remove, rinse. This is genuine. What to do in a stabbing attack? Pressure, police, pressure. How to be a good victim. America is better than this. Your constitution is your battle book against this. But your challenge is to engage voters at the midterms to defend those freedoms. Defend your freedom of speech. And that is not about standing on college campuses giving talks to kids. That's not good enough. It's about using your freedom of speech, not pontificating about it. Last time I was in LA, a week ago, I spent 2 days and nights with my cameraman, he was thrilled, to live on Skid Row. I use my freedom of speech to reflect the reality of life under Democrats. And the reality on Skid Row, ladies and gentlemen, is 4,000 desperate souls utterly lost, drowned by life. Here in their tents and cardboard homes, it's a sea of filth, of human waste, of open sewers, of needles, and of rats running through it all. It is London in the slums in the 1600s, right before the outbreak of the bubonic plague. And less than 20 minutes away from the palatial home of the Democratic mayor. And this is how we use freedom of speech in the battle for the midterms, with undeniable truths. Skid Row and the lost souls therein are an undeniable truth of what happens when you have Democrats in power. Next up, I'm thinking I might spend some time at the border. A week or so. I may get myself in the back of some of these wagons and expose the trafficking of humans at an industrial scale, and I am going to work out who is waving through these van loads of illegals, and I will bring those truths too. Our challenge in this midterm time is to drive these truths home to voters in order to fill the legislature with the populists we need to support Trump and enable him to fulfill his agenda. We need to back the guy. These midterms will be won or lost on the Second Amendment. And I'm betting there are still more Americans willing to stand and defend this right than there are to cede their personal safety to politicians. Let the Democrats champion their causes. Let them celebrate the trans mafia. Let them push LGBTQ FPC like it's a Justin Trudeau house party. They can talk about their pussy marches all they want and wear their daft little hats. We don't care. I saw placards, "My vagina's made of steel." Well, guess what? I can get a 24-ounce can of Coors up mine sideways. So I'm tougher than you any day of the week. I gave birth to a 12-pound baby with no stitches. I know what I'm talking about here. Let them shout, "Black Lives Matter," even as another 600 young black men are killed in Chicago, and there's no march for that. Republicans will use their free speech to tell undeniable truths. Look at my country. What wouldn't I give for the right to bear arms as you do? Let the Democrats have their tissues, their issues, and their tears. You are armed with facts, firearms, and the Constitution. And I know which side I would rather be on. You go, you vote, you keep Trump in power, or you will have me to deal with, and that's a direct threat. Thank you very much. My consistent message to America is do not become like the UK. Do not let yourselves fall as we have fallen. Protect the freedoms that matter most to you.